Hello and welcome to Fashion Bites. I'm Ellen Byerrum, author of The Crime of Fashion Mysteries featuring Lacey Smithsonian, a fashion reporter in Washington, D.C., the city that fashion forgot. Lacey is a reluctant fashion reporter who solves crimes with fashion clues, and I am reluctantly trying to fight the sounds of birds and planes and barking dogs, so stay tuned, listen close. Today I am delighted that we are back to listen to part 2 of my interview with World War II Marine Marge Muzzillo. We're going to hear a lot more about what she did during the war in her service years. But first, I just wanted to mention the dress I'm wearing. A couple of viewers actually said, there's a bee that just, okay. But first, I'm going to talk about this dress that I am wearing. It is an authentic 1940s dress. It is probably rayon. It is a crepe. And as you notice, it has some amazing embroidery here on the shoulder and on the opposite hip. The reason for so many creative touches during 1940s and in the clothing is because of fabric restrictions, clothing restrictions. So designers and dressmakers had to be far more creative with what they had. That's why we see a lot of trims, a lot of embroidery, buttons, all sorts of things, because there was a lack of fabric. Okay, so now we're going to visit Marge, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. I know we've talked a bit about this before, but you said that when you went to Camp Lejeune, that it opened your eyes up to racial discrimination and differences.
Well, there was one incident in particular which definitely impressed a girl who had lived in a mid-Missouri town growing up.
Right.
At that time, schools were not integrated, so we did. But one evening, there was a group of people got together as just a communal date get-together, and the men were mostly ranking NCOs and did not want to come to our women's battalion, slop shoot. But we were ineligible to go to the NCO club. So they said, oh, well, we'll go to our private club. We had no idea what was up, but we did pile into a car and drove out to the edge of the base, and as the car pulled in to this little one-story wooden shack, the headlights hit the shack and black men poured out of this building.
Oh.
So their white NCOs were taking it over as their private club.
And they in essence kicked the black, were they black officers or black servicemen?
Oh, none of them had any rank at all. They were all privates.
Okay.
But it didn't matter. The very fact that these guys were using that inhuman type of treatment and pulling rank on these helpless black men upset me greatly and made me realize that there was an awful lot of nasty discrimination going on. And up until then, I was pretty well sheltered from it.
Right. So the Marine Corps actually opened your eyes in many ways, even to injustices within the Marine Corps.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. One more question. Were there any black female Marines? No.
No.
Okay.
I am not quite sure when black women were admitted, but it was a number of years after World War II, probably even after Korea. And we had women among us who very definitely were used to having their own black servants.
Oh, mercy. Mercy.
And had a very hard time learning to do anything for themselves because they had been waited upon all their lives.
Well, then that must have been a good experience for them.
Oh, that was quite an experience for them, and fortunately, one of those women was mentored by an older woman whose bunk was fairly close to hers, and was helped through a lot of her trauma.
Oh dear, that's funny. I wanted to touch a little bit on rationing, because I think people today have no idea what that would be like.
People have absolutely no idea what that would be like. They started with food rationing.
Right.
And so such non-essentials as ketchup and mustard and things other than just
food.
Yeah. Were very hard to come by. It was only after World War II that we realized that people sometimes ate meat 3 times a day. I mean, we grew up with meat once a day.
Yes.
And so meat rationing was not as big a thing as some of the other rationing was.
Sugar.
What?
Sugar must have been a big one.
I'm sure sugar was a huge one. I know that some of the girls I worked with in Kansas City, if we went out to a restaurant, were cabbage onto all the packages of ketchup that they could find to take home because Mama will not use ration stamps for ketchup. The shoes became rationed early on.
Right.
The cotton cloth that was used to make many of my garments disappeared completely, and my mother used empty grain sacks to make dresses for my nieces, little girls.
And flour sacks. And
yes, but not flour sacks as much as grain sacks.
Huh. They must have been larger then, were they? I don't know, actually. I've seen flour sacks, but
these, at any rate, that type of thing was a big deal. During the vicissitudes of World War II, my father listened to his sister who had a farm in Wisconsin and was unable to find any farmhands because the younger men were all drafted. So Dad quit his job as a construction foreman for the powder works in Kansas and went to Wisconsin to help his sister on the farm.
Wow, that's loyalty for one thing. I don't know, but
however, in trying to capture a swarm of bees, he fell out of a tree and hurt his shoulder.
Oh dear.
And so was useless as a farmhand.
Well,
they supplied my dad with farm gasoline to drive back to Missouri.
Oh, okay.
But when they got to Missouri, they discovered that his rapacious sister had taken all of their ration points.
Oh my goodness.
And so here they were, stranded in a small town and they had to beg people to borrow ration points, or one of Dad's sisters had a small store in a country town, and she supplied them with some of the things that were rationed.
My
and
goodness, that sounds like a bad sister. The one with the farm.
The one with the farm. Yes, and no, she and her husband both thought that it was just real clever to outsmart people who were ignorant in some way or another.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Well, those people are everywhere, and today
Yes.
more than ever.
And they can even be in your own family, unfortunately.
Yes. Wow. Dancing was very popular during the war, wasn't it? And you had dances on the base or in
We
the
had,
towns?
well, each of the men's battalions took a week and had a dance, to which, of course, all the women were invited.
Because there were so few of you.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
And I was not much of a dancer, but anyway, and stumbled around.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any favorite band leaders or singers that you liked? I know Bing Crosby was popular, Frank Sinatra was popular.
I recall a USO show when we actually saw all the ink spots.
Really? That must have been pretty cool.
Yes. The theater on base was absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm.
And one, Jose Iturbe also performed for us.
Pretty nice.
But yeah, the USO attempted to do things. There was also a local USO in the town next to the camp.
Mm-hmm.
And we were allowed to go there and prepare food if we wanted to, or do other things at that little USO, which is also something to do on weekends.
That's great. Do you have a favorite moment or moments that you remember from those years? Because I like the story about the moonshine, but we don't have to go there.
Well, we can go there, yes. When I was visiting my brother who was in the Army in one of the towns in North Carolina, the host and my brother sat there one day and they had a quart jar full of nice white liquid, and I thought, white lightning, I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brother poured me a glass of this just to see what would happen when I tasted it.
Uh-huh.
And as I did with the tequila years later,
yes,
I downed it in one gulp. Looked at my brother and our host and said, I think I'll go lie down.
So that white lightning was pretty potent.
Yes. Okay.
Is there a message or a lesson from the 1940s that it would do well for us to remember today?
I think part of it was that we were termed the greatest generation.
Right.
We had to realize also where we came from and what our forebears had taught us.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole sense of continuing history and the very fact that we felt impelled to do our very best at anything we ever tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
And find it rather appalling at some of the work situations we have observed where people seem to think that they're doing the boss a favor by taking a job.
Yes.
And the very fact that all of us, as we went on into life, wherever we worked, we tried to make our company look good.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I'm not seeing an awful lot of.
Right, today. Did you ever think that we wouldn't win the war? Or did you believe that America and its allies would win the war?
I think we were sure that we would win, always. It felt like just simply a matter of time, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we very definitely joined most of the men who had served in Europe by being very glad that the atom bomb was dropped.
Right.
And they did not have to go back into combat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The morality of dropping that on an enemy country did not strike us as being anything that we needed to worry about.
Well, I think maybe times have changed a little bit with that, but
Yeah.
it was everything to end the war, to simply end the war.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everybody putting forth their best effort in every way, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Marge. This has been an absolute pleasure for me.
Well, thank you,
Yes.
dear. I enjoyed it and enjoyed my lovely flowers.
well,
Thank you.
good. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next time with another episode of Fashion Bites. If you want to know more about me or my books, check out my website at ellenbyerrum.com. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And who knows, maybe something else. Bye.
Great.
Thank you, Marge. That was delightful.
Thank you, and I enjoyed it.